Hello everybody, JGC Anime here today. We're here to review That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, Visions of Coleus. So without further ado, let's just hop right into this. So what is this slime special type 3-episode thing? Basically, it follows the events right before season 2, where Rimiru is approached and given a task of kind of eyeing through a nation and maybe trying to give the guild, the adventurers guild, some ideas of who they should side with between two different guys trying to run for king in their kingdom. And it leads to this really bizarre set of circumstances that involve Rimiru getting involved in everything. And yeah, that's about all I can say without really starting to dive into spoilers here, so that's all I got. Sorry if that wasn't enough, but that's all I got, so yeah. With that said, let's hop into spoiler-free thoughts. So, in terms of spoiler-free thoughts for this, I honestly kind of enjoyed it. I definitely liked it more than the movie, but not as much as the main series. I thought there were a lot of really fun elements in there, though as you can expect from a show with only 3 episodes for its special, where you have to tell the whole story in 3 episodes, it definitely felt a bit awkward at the end, but I don't think it was a terrible ending overall. It's kind of iffy for me at times, because like I do enjoy it. I did have a good time with this 3-episode special, but at the same time, I felt like there could have been more to it if they had just had a few more episodes to tell a bit more of a story, because if I'm being honest, as I had expected, episode 3, which is the final episode of the special, did feel a bit off with how it ended things. Things just kind of happened and I don't know, just a bit iffy, but I did enjoy it a lot more than I did the movie, which was what I watched before this, minus Slime Diaries, and I felt like the movie did not do as good of a job of telling the story as just like its own single one-off story as much as this one did, as I felt like this one did handle itself a lot better through overall character writing and plot, even if all of the characters who aren't Rimiru and crew can be a bit iffy. Even some of the characters who I thought were going to be main players in this storyline didn't really do much. But I did find a lot of nice elements there. The comedy was really funny. Some really good sound effects came in here and there. Not as good as the main show, but still a lot of really nice sound effects. The music is good, and there's a lot of really fun elements, and the writing overall is pretty solid. Would I have preferred a season 3 over this? Yes, but we do have season 3 coming. It is on its way, so I'm very excited for that. But overall, I think there were a lot of really fun elements there, and while I can't really talk about too much of it without spoilers, so that's for the spoiler section, I did overall have a really good time with this special, and I felt that while there were some strange oddities that if you didn't know all of the slime lore could be a bit confusing, I still enjoyed myself a lot, and I think this is a fun time for anyone who just wants to enjoy a bit of slime content, and yeah. If I were to kind of describe how I felt about some characters, I guess, before going into any spoiler territory, I guess what character I can talk about without really spoiling anything about him is this character called Paulo, or whatever the heck, or how you pronounce it, I don't know. But I'm not sure whether I should actually really like him or not yet, because we only had 3 episodes to really dive into his character, and if I'm being honest, they didn't really do much diving into it, as he doesn't really play a massive role. But I don't hate him. I don't think he's a terrible character. I just wish that we got to understand a bit more about his character before he just kind of vanished into the background until near the end of the storyline. But he wasn't a bad character. I definitely feel like he played his part, even if it was only a little bit of a part, and overall, not a bad character. That's the only character that I can really talk about without going into any kind of spoilers about their whole storyline in this, so yeah. That's all I can really say without spoiling anything, so we're just going to the spoiler section now. Here's a timestamp if you want to skip to the end. If you have seen the show, though, I'd recommend sticking around and hear my thoughts, but if you haven't, just skip to the end, so that way you don't get any spoilers. But again, if you have seen it, I'd recommend sticking around and hear my thoughts. So yeah, I'm going to count up for 5, and I'm going to enter the spoiler section. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so first thing I want to talk about is something I actually kind of had a small problem with, and that was in the first episode, and that was when Rimiru used this thing called Apito's honey, where it's meant to be like this all kind of curing honey, and I had no idea what that was. I ended up looking it up later, but apparently it's some kind of special honey, which I wish they kind of explained that to me, because it seemed to me just like Rimiru to this princess who was sick, he just gave her this honey. She was like, oh my gosh, I could not only feel better, but I also can see now. My blindness has been cured. And it's just like, what? I don't think honey has the kind of properties to heal blindness. Then I had to look it up and realize, oh, this is a special kind of honey. And I wish they dove more into that whole element, because I was so confused. I was like, wait, what's so special about this honey? I'm guessing if you're a fan of the light novels, and maybe it was brought up in the anime at one point, but I don't remember it. But I feel like I've never heard of this honey before, which is why at the end of the episode where she's all cured and whatnot, I'm just like, wait, what? How? What? Huh? You can't tell me how he did that, because they don't clarify it. They don't really make it clear to you. And also, some other problems I kind of had with this is how I was really upset at how they were trying to set up Valentine's character as something more important to this 3-episode plot, but then she barely does anything. Valentine's whole character in season 2 is kind of a mystery, and I was really hoping that with these specials, we might get a better idea of who her character is, but instead we don't really learn anything about her, and we learn even less about this other character called Violet, who appears in the movie, and just like in the movie, she kind of just does her own thing here, and I'm so confused about who she is. And honestly, it almost kind of feels like how people felt when they were trying to tease Kang in the Marvel movies, because I have seen Violet twice now, and neither times has she left a truly insane impression on me. The first time, it was like, oh, okay, this is kind of an interesting character, but now that she's appeared here, I'm just like, oh, okay, now I just don't care. I don't even care if I never see her again. Like, there's nothing about Violet to me personally so far that has felt like a truly massive threat. I don't care enough about this character to really think, oh man, it's this person, it's Violet, oh, she's coming, and it's just, I don't care that much. I don't really want to know much about Violet, who she is, who she's connected to. She really does not feel like a character I want to explore, compared to other characters like Diablo, who at first I thought, oh, this is kind of edgy, maybe villain character. I'm curious to see what kind of happens with his character, but then he just turns out to kind of be like a sib for Rimiru, but there's also some kind of other dark meanings to his character which are really interesting, and that is the kind of stuff where I really like in a character, where I think one way, but then they kind of subvert that in a way where it is kind of how I was thinking, but also not, as there's a few other pieces to the puzzle than I initially thought. And that's not the way I get with Violet. She just feels like one of those characters who's like, I'm bored, let me go destroy things. Which, we already kind of have that character role filled out with Malim, and it's just, I don't care about Violet. I genuinely don't care for her character, and she doesn't add anything to the special other than slightly possessing the princess for a little bit, while the two brothers have finally resolved their problems practically instantly because Rimiru made all these preparations, even though the two brothers were at each other's throats for the throne before, because it turns out, oh, actually one of the brothers didn't want the throne. However, there were all these plans set up by their father to try to make them fight each other, and I don't know. Just Violet's character, who was supposed to play a big kind of role in this, is definitely not someone I care much for. And honestly, I don't even know if I really want to see her in the Slime series at all that much going forward, but who knows? Maybe in the actual light novel, she's really good. I wouldn't know. I haven't seen enough of her other than the 2 times I've seen her so far, and neither times has she really impressed me that much, so yeah. But moving on past that for now, going into a bit more of a positive territory, I'd like to talk about how I really did enjoy the fact that they decided to cram this earlier in the series. While I did feel like it was a bit kind of rough to maybe go back and watch this after season 1, since they actually just straight up tell you at the end of this episode, or all of these episodes, that, oh yeah, Rimiru becomes a demon lord. Basically, the whole special thing ends with them being like, hey, I heard a new demon lord has arisen. Oh man, the new demon lord's name is Rimiru. Man, we remember Rimiru. Yeah, he helped our kingdom. And that makes it kind of weird in terms of the setup of where you could watch this in the show, because it means that even though this whole storyline takes place before the events of season 2, and the fact that there's just that little bit at the end there really makes it confusing, because that means you can't just watch it right after the end of season 1, because then you'll just be spoiled about Rimiru becoming a demon lord. However, this whole storyline does still work, in my opinion, in the past, because other than that little bit, which means you can't really just go and enjoy it on its own after season 1, as a whole thing, I do appreciate the fact that it was taking place in the past, because at this point, Rimiru hasn't become a demon lord yet. And because of that, we don't have to worry about all the details of, oh, but Rimiru's so OP now, he can just do this or this, like the movie had that problem. However, because this takes place before season 2, before Rimiru becomes a demon lord, it actually works in the story's favor, as Rimiru is not as OP as he becomes, and I appreciate how we're able to just enjoy seeing Rimiru at this stage, where he's not quite ready to fight demon lords and stuff yet, but he's getting stronger, he's improving. But yeah, I did enjoy a lot of elements of this whole special, especially with the introduction of the Phantom Thief Satoru, which is basically just Rimiru in this really interesting form where he just pretends to kidnap the princess for a little bit, which was really funny. And it almost makes me kind of wish we would get to see more of Phantom Thief Satoru in the future, because that was just one of my favorite moments of this entire special, along with this one moment where, because Paulo is off trying to mock Rimiru because he's like, oh man, he's always on my back and he's always just trying to get on my nerves. Soe basically then just is like, all right, well, for this, you just get to be pummeled. And then he just has this whole moment where he just pummels up Paulo. It's so funny. I don't know. I love that moment so much. It's so good. There are definitely a lot of great moments that get a really good laugh out of me, and it's just a lot of fun. Even though I do feel like the way it wraps up is rather odd, where after everything is revealed and brought to light, turns out the brothers were being forced against each other, and they learn the truth about that, then two demons reveal, oh yeah, by the way, we're both these one-dimensional villains who really want to accomplish some sort of goal. So to do that, we're gonna trap all of you in this one tiny barrier where Rimiru could destroy it easily, and then after I do that, when one of us is gonna try to go against all of you, and while the other tries to escape, the other one's just like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna quickly absorb my friend real quick and then leave. And instead of following after, Rimiru and the others just stand there watching one guy die for having all his energy absorbed. And instead of trying to go after this other guy, instead end up leaving all the final battle stuff to Valentine, who goes up against Violet, who is possessing the princess's body. And it's just this whole thing that I didn't really care too much for. Like, it wasn't a bad battle per se, but I really would have appreciated Rimiru being in on the action. At least like maybe having the guy not get his energy absorbed and then Rimiru and crew go and take him on would be awesome. That would be a great way to add them into the fight, even if only a little bit. But no, instead they're just not gonna leave the barrier, and by the time they finally decide to leave, the whole battle's over, which I don't know, just that whole extra thing didn't really make sense to me. That was just a weird thing. I didn't understand it. And overall, the final episode did feel like it just tried to wrap everything up. But overall, I would say that I really did enjoy this special. I really had a good time with it, and I'm very happy to have checked it out because these 3 episodes were already leagues better than the movie. Like, the movie, I still don't like at all. I felt like it just was not very good. However, I felt that this 3-episode special was really good, and I had a lot of fun with it, even though it kind of flopped the bag a little bit at the end, and the beginning had a few issues here and there, and episode 2 is definitely the best one of them all, as it's the most funny as well as the most interesting and entertaining. Overall, I had a good time with this, and I just really enjoyed myself. And if you're a fan of slime, I'd recommend you check it out as well, because it's fun. It's a really entertaining little 3-episode short series type thing. But yeah, I guess one last thing I'd like to talk about before we move on to everything else is how I kind of feel about Valentine, once again, going back to Valentine, and this whole mystery thing that's kind of set up at the start of this special, but then it's never resolved, where she's standing in front of this tank of sorts with somebody inside it, and she's just saying some stuff to herself about whatever and whatever. I don't remember all the details, but basically she was talking about some kind of stuff going on with this person, and I was curious to see where that was going to lead. I was curious to see, what's going on with this thing in Valentine? Never gets answered. Never resolved. No relevance. Why was this here? It has no relevance to the entire story. It literally only gets brought up at the beginning and end. That's it. That could have just been teased in an actual episode of the actual show, but instead it's in this special, and it just does not make any sense because it's not relevant to whatever is going on in the story. The only relevance Valentine has is that she punishes the people for causing misdeeds near the end in the final episode, and I just felt like her whole character wasn't super relevant to this, and the only reason she was brought in was because the villain was too OP for Rimiru to fight right now, and that was it. But yeah, it wasn't amazing, but overall I did enjoy this whole special season, and I did think that it was a lot of fun. And yeah, that's all I have to say. So we're at the conclusion of this video. What are my final thoughts? Overall, I think it's a fun watch. You'll probably find some enjoyment in this like I did, and I definitely think it is 100% leagues better than the movie in pretty much every single aspect, because it's not as overly grand and definitely tries to take itself in a more interesting direction. And while it may be generic in a lot of ways, I did enjoy it a heck of a lot more. And I overall just really, really enjoyed the special. And that's why I give That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, Visions of Coleus, a 7 out of 10. Very enjoyable. May not be as good as some of the other stuff that they've put out, like the regular slime series, but there's still some fun to be had here, and I really enjoy it. And yeah, that's all I have to say, and thank you all for watching. If you're new to the JGC Anime channel, don't forget to subscribe. I also do Anime Fans to the channel, and I will see you all around. Peace!